Alright guys, welcome back to another one. In today's video, we've got a big update towards Lost Soul Aside, the highly anticipated Devil May Cry Final Fantasy 15 inspired hack and slash that's been in development since 2016. The game was recently showcased at China's biggest video game expo, China Joy. PlayStation have had quite a big presence here over the past few years since getting more focused on the Asian gaming market and starting the China Hero project. Here, a bunch of the games from the China Hero project were put on display, and Lost Soul Aside was one of them, which is always great. It's been 8 years since this game was revealed, and it's been 7 years since PlayStation picked this up, giving Yang Bing, who was a solo developer for the game at the time, a full studio known as Ulti-Zero Games to push the vision of Lost Soul Aside beyond what Yang Bing had originally intended. Now, Yang Bing and a developer from Ulti-Zero Games gave a live demonstration at China Joy, playing the training mode as well as versing a boss fight in the game. They obviously talk about the game, but unfortunately it's all in Chinese, and from what I can gather, there has been no translations of exactly what they're explaining, which is a little bit disappointing. I'm sure there's quite a few different questions that are answered that we want to know about. Now, there's a few good signs throughout this footage that point towards a potential release hopefully soon. There was a rumor going around that Lost Soul Aside will be releasing early 2024. Obviously didn't turn out to be true, and it's not looking like this game is going to release this year. Hopefully it will be a 2025 release, because every single time we've received an update for this game over the past few years, it looks like the game is in a pretty polished state, which makes us think, okay, surely this game is finally coming out. The first thing we get to see is what looks like potentially the main menu of the game. Now, this could just be a placeholder for the purpose of the demonstration here, but that is a good thing, and it also looks like the logo of Lost Soul Aside has been finalized. It's gone through a couple of revisions. This looks to be the final version of the logo. Now, this is the training mode, a pretty standard hack and slash looking training mode. The first thing we'll notice here is the heads-up display. Now, we actually got to see the heads-up display finally functional and in gameplay during the footage that was released last year at 2023's China Joy, where the devs also gave about a 20-minute demonstration on the level that we saw from 2021, but this time a proper gameplay demonstration with the heads-up display elements there present. The heads-up display has received a small update since we last saw it in 2023, like the items next to the health bar, increasing the text size of the numbers so that they stand out a little more. And the boss's health bar is now up the top in the center of the screen rather than being slightly smaller to the left of the screen. We also got to see a loading screen where we've got a chibi version of the main character walking. Stuff like this is great to see because it makes me think that we are getting close, but who knows? Again, I thought the same last year when we saw the 2023 footage with the heads-up display finally present, looking like it's running on a semi-watt getting close to final build of the game. Now, interestingly, there are a couple of things that aren't present here in this new gameplay that was in the 2023 footage, but this is likely because this is a training mode and for the sake of the demonstration. But there is a style meter in the game, so people should know that this is very much a Devil May Cry hack and slash title. There is that Final Fantasy 15 inspiration there. We can see that within the themes of the game, the design of the main character. And while I'm sure this game probably has some RPG elements present, this is very much more so a hack and slash title than it is an action RPG. And I think that's great because nowadays in gaming, it's either action RPG, like Kingdom Hearts, or it's a Souls-like. The days of having character-driven action games like Bayonetta, Ninja Gaiden, or Devil May Cry are less common. This was a big thing during the PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, and PS3 era. Now we do have Black Myth Wukong, which is releasing later on this month, which is going to be a character-driven action game, along with eventually Phantom Blade Zero. So it would seem as if these games are possibly making a return, and Lost Soul Aside is one of them. So we did see a Devil May Cry style meter present in that 2023 footage. As we deal damage, string together combos, and remain unhit, the style meter will increase through letter ranks. It also looks like there's an ability system directly tied into the style meter as well, as that increases, these orbs start glowing around the style meter. And here we can press R2 to perform a unique attack. This mechanic looks separate to that of the ability system bound to L2 and then pressing one of the symbol buttons. The other thing that is missing here is the weapon switching by pressing R1. So yes, there will be multiple different different weapons in this game, and just like how Noctis can cycle through a bunch of different weapons and spawn them out of thin air, the main character here can do the same thing. In this footage, we saw the character switching between a sword and a greatsword. I think the purpose behind this training footage was to better demonstrate some of the mechanics that are present here in the game. Although we did see it in the 2023 footage, we've now got a better idea as to how some of these systems work. Like, yes, we do have a perfect dodge system, with a really handy closing in circle effect to indicate when the enemy is about to attack, and the exact moment we should press the dodge button to perform a perfect dodge. The attack indicator can also be used for the guarding system, which is on circle. If we guard right at the moment the circle closes in, we can press circle to perform a perfect guard. There's also a stagger system for all enemies and bosses throughout the game, represented by a yellow bar underneath their health. After dealing enough damage, this will eventually get to 0, and we can perform a special attack on them by pressing square and X. Bosses throughout the game will also have multiple health bars, represented by an orb above the health itself. We can also tell what level the boss or enemy is, represented by a number next to their health, as well as what sort of element type they are. It would seem as if this boss here is fire. This could also be weakness too, perhaps weak to fire. So again, it seems like there are going to be some light RPG elements. It would seem that we've also got a stamina bar here in the game, used for dodging and even some attacks, though it looks like performing some attacks actually replenishes this stamina. The game doesn't really look overly too different though compared to what we saw last year, which in a way is kind of a good sign, because this probably means that there's not too much work remaining for the project. I would say at this stage, the team is probably just working on fine-tuning and literally polishing every element possible. Remember that it was back in April that Lost Soul Aside announced that it got its ISBN license so that it could release in China. This is a government-mandated license for any video game to legally be able to release in the China mainland. In order for this to happen, a good portion of the game needs to be made so that the government actually know the contents of what's contained in the game itself. This indicates that the game should be in its final stretches of development. One thing that I've noticed with the projects that are a part of PlayStation's China Hero project is it seems like PlayStation don't set deadlines on any of these games. For PlayStation's first-party major studios, there's usually deadlines as to when these games should come out, so they've got a set amount of time that the game needs to be completed by. Now obviously for them it's more viable, as these teams are exponentially bigger than the teams working on the various games a part of the China Hero project. But it's great that Sony are seemingly allowing these studios to take as much time as possible to ensure that the product that comes out as an end result is something of quality. There's only been about 6 of these games that have released so far since the initiative was started back in 2016. The notable ones are Fist Forged in Shadow Torch, I loved this title, as well as In Nightmare. But we're yet to see the best of this initiative, as there are 11 games that are currently in development, which hopefully we should start to see the bulk of these games release over the next 2 to 3 years. I'll talk a little bit more about these other projects sometime soon, as they are certainly games that should be on your radar. Most of the time, I'm a big believer in just let the developers cook, and I think Lost Soul Aside is a situation of that. Remember, this started off as a solo developed project. Some people are throwing around that this is just vaporware, which is totally insane if you were to know the actual story of Yang Bing and how Lost Soul Aside started back in 2016. I think this guy just really wants to create the best possible version of this game, because overall I think the game is looking pretty well polished. I mean, so it should after 8 years of development, but it is hard to find spots of jank, which can be pretty commonplace in the indie space. The environments especially is something that I want to comment on, because my god, they look gorgeous. It looks like this game is linear design, which works best for hack and slash titles, but the environments look of an incredibly high fidelity. This truly is a current generation title built for PlayStation 5. And it's great to have another one, like again, considering that we don't have a lot of these, Final Fantasy 16 is really the only one that currently comes to mind. And I absolutely adore the Chinese influence into the level design as well. This broken old ancient temple up in the mountains where nature has strangulated it. It looks fantastic. There were some things that needed ironing out from what we saw last year, like some of the animations with the enemies when they're being attacked or as they're attacking look a little bit unsmooth, and I'm sure these are things that are getting fixed. However, I'm incredibly impressed with Lost Soul Aside. I mean, I have been since 2016. It's a long-ass time to be waiting for a video game, but I will remain to be patient. I am crossing my fingers that 2025 is the year. Alright guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Check out my other garbage social media platforms, links below. A big thank you to my turkey-tastic patrons. I hope each and every one of you are having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.